New developments in the fight to get Donald Trump's taxes on his home turf. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signing a bill allowing Congress now to actually legally take his state tax returns, whether he likes it or not. The idea is that Congress will then fulfill its responsibilities so that no one is above the law. New York is, of course, Trump's home state. It's also the home of the Trump Organization, many of his real estate interests, and the new law comes as Democrats in Congress are separately suing to get the federal return. So a lot of developments here, and we turn to one of our favorites, former Trump Organization executive Barbara Rez, and an author to boot. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
How does Donald Trump feel when he sees his native New York here this week pass an explicit law to get his state returns?
Well, you know, he feels like everyone's after him, and that's just another example of, you know, he's, oh my God, the world is closing in on him. But is he worried about it? At this point, I don't think so, not yet. I think he thinks his lawyers are going to protect him. Because look at what he's done. This is just dealing with little New York State. I mean, he's managed to avoid subpoenas. He's not listening to the Supreme Court. He doesn't follow any rules at all. So I think he's probably taking this okay for now.
Why do you think he hides his taxes?
You know, at first I thought, well, it had something to do with maybe the charitable contributions that he doesn't make. And then, you know, maybe he doesn't make as much money as he says he does, and he's always been that way, years and years and years. But now I'm wondering if it isn't, you know, just the financing where that money's coming from and who he's getting money
Right,
from.
that it could be embarrassing or unsavory and that kind of thing.
Or, yeah.
When you worked for him, did it feel like traditional exaggeration? There's plenty of folks in business and media who hype. Or was it more acute, almost more intense?
It was absurd. I mean, about everything. I mean, the things he said about his schooling, about his wife being an Olympic athlete. I mean, you know, everything was completely, you almost think, how can I believe this? And yet, interestingly enough, in the beginning, most of us believed a good deal of what he said. Because, you know, you think people are going to be honest, and he's your boss.
What changed your mind?
Or after enough time, and, you know, also finding out the facts. You know, he would say something, and then you'd see that it was just, you know, completely wrong. So
I read, and I always like to rely on you for the extra insights, I read that he doesn't really vacation or take time off or spend time with many friends. Was that your experience working for him?
Yeah, he hated Christmas because he went away for a week, and I don't think he wanted to leave the company alone without him. That, you know, we would all do something over there.
You know, Barbara, I wouldn't just say that I'm an expert on Christmas and its culture, but I think when you make a list of people throughout history who hate Christmas, it's a short list, no?
Yeah, well, you know, they went to Aspen and he likes to ski, but he didn't. Well, also, by the way, Christmas meant bonuses, and that killed him to give away money to everybody.
If the United States actually gets the New York tax returns, what do you think would be the most important takeaway on the state side of that information?
On the state side, I think it's going to be, you know, just what federal stuff rolled into the state, because what's your number on line 42? That just goes right into the state. I mean, it mimics the federal tax. There's going to be a lot of information in there.
You know what I think the kids would say about you, Barbara?
What?
You keep it real.
Thank you.
You know, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
The one and only Barbara Rez, a Beat exclusive. I hope you'll come back.
I would love to come back.
Great. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.